let's move to RCB now, and of course, this is Gurkirat's second team for the evening. RCB. I mean, this team just loves to build pace. They have the best strike rate when it comes to facing pace bowling as a team, but when it comes to facing spin, they have the second lowest strike rate. So the difference there is stark, and so is the difference between their KGF and what was to follow after that. And hence we see them not qualifying. And in fact, they finished below Rajasthan Royals based on the net run rate. So yeah, maybe Gurkirat, you can just delve deeper
Yeah.
into what were the
So
issues for RCB and what were the silver linings.
in this graphic that we can see, the biggest number there is sixes being minus 19. Now, when you are going to play 7 games at Chinnaswamy, you can't afford to have that. Your sixes being minus 19. That is where, and it reflected in their results also. They won only 3 games out of 7, while most teams have not dominated at home this season. This has been a factor. If you look at their bowling average and batting average, those are good numbers. And I looked at their bowling numbers closely. They were very good in the power play. Where they lost the plot was in the middle overs. In the middle overs from over 7 to 15, they were the worst side, and their spinners were the most expensive throughout the tournament. They had a economy rate of 9.77, and the second worst is 8.63. It's down to
Yeah,
Hasaranga.
yeah,
We were missing few games. It's also because he missed a few games and did not hit form. And then Karan Sharma conceding so many sixes, both, like, so many times, both their spinners just kept bowling it short. And to the extent that, come the virtual knockout game, they went to a rookie like Himanshu Sharma over Karan Sharma, or even Shahbaz. They could have played Shahbaz yesterday, given how Gujarat had 5 batters. His usage also wasn't the greatest. So, yeah, probably they need to, outside of Hasaranga, they probably need to look at an Indian spinner who's reliable and who they can rely on, at least 3 overs, if not four, because the spin bowling attack, and Maxwell also did not bowl a lot in this tournament. Outside of Asaranga, their spin bowling attack was okay. We'll try this. We'll see what happens, and then you know rotate stuff and see. And one thing I thought, which also hurt them, was Harshal's form. It was not a surprise to me because Harshal in Chinnaswamy, I still think that in a few games he did well. He did well versus Rajasthan when they played. He did decently yesterday also, but like we had discussed this in one of the watch longs early on, uh, Harshal doesn't have wicket taking options on his own. Like, if there is not enough pressure from the other end, uh, teams could just look to play him out, or he will only get wickets when batters are making a mistake. Now, while it can work in bowling attacks which have, which have 3 or 4 good bowlers, like how it's worked. Nikhil had mentioned this very well when we were talking about Mohit Sharma, that a lot of wickets that Mohit Sharma got was also due to the fact that there was no other release in that Gujarat bowling attack, right? But Harshal has not been able to have that luxury because there are few releases. Hazelwood's injury did not help them. So yeah, these things. I feel the silver lining for them is that Siraj got back to form. Kohli did much better than what I had expected, I feel. And yeah, I mean, these are the silver linings for me. And even Maxwell, I'd say, is sort of a silver lining, because for someone like Maxwell to give you 550s in 13 innings or 14 innings is not something that you'd see every day. Uh, Also, what would disappoint them is the fact that they couldn't really use their Indian batting resources well. Uh, Patidar being injured really put them back, and that reflects in the spin numbers that you spoke about. And it was always going to be a factor. And then they didn't really figure out who they wanted to back, because last season they gave Anuj Rawat some 7 games as an opener and then dropped him. This season, you felt like they just kept backing him. Mahipal Bromro came in late. He did have an impactful 50 versus Delhi, had an impactful 30 versus KKR when they were playing in Eden. Then Suyesh Prabhudesai had a decent cameo versus Chennai, tried his best but couldn't take them over the line. Biggest disappointment again, I'd have to say Dinesh Karthik. Uh, Probably he ends up getting released. and they'll have to again also look for a wicket keeper who could bat. Uh, I have a feeling that someone like, I'm not sure how much is Sam Billings keeping right now, but if they go for someone like Sam Billings, have him at number 5, 6 to play that role of a finisher, maybe he could be that fit, could work. Not sure. That's one of the names that are top of my head. So they need to look at this and they need to structure their batting lineup in a way that it's not top three or bust, which became the case this season. Hopefully, Patidar's back next season does well, and that strengthens their bowling attack. But yeah, oh sorry, batting lineup. But yeah, one more good spinner outside of Hasaranga who can also be defensive. Like they need someone who can do the job of an Ashwin, because if they had someone like Ashwin, probably their season would have been slightly better. Maybe they would have gotten that one extra win, and would have taken them to the qualifier. So uh, they lost out on the playoff spots by a few fine margins, despite having obvious holes in the squad. I do feel somewhere they've performed up to potential, given the injuries that were there, given the form and everything. But yeah, it's funny how last year Kohli and Siraj lost form, two of the players that they had retained. And this year, when they had form, Hasaranga did not have a great season. DK did not have a great season. Hazelwood wasn't available. Harshal wasn't available. Faf literally batted out of his skin. He almost replicated Gale's 2013 season or even 2012 season. 700 runs, 750s. It's not a joke, but yeah, it's been a season of fine margins for them. Uh, yeah, potential releases for me. Uh, I think Anuj Rawat they'll have to release. They'll probably have to uh, release. Who did Kedar Jadhav come in as a replacement for?
Willie, David Willie.
Yeah. So Kedar, I actually think that they need to keep David Willie and release Wayne Parnell. I don't find the sense of like and Parnell was also a replacement player for Topley. So I did not understand that that move. They really need one pacer who can be express 140 plus, can hit the deck. So they need that because Hazelwood's aging. He doesn't have the age on his side. Probably they could sign someone like a Gerard Kochi. So there's that. And who else? Who else they could? Yeah.
I mean, because you're mentioning about Hasaranga, I was just thinking maybe Punjab should suggest a cheeky Hasaranga Rahul chair swap so that RCB get a good leg spinner, Punjab get an X factor leg spinner, and RCB could then invest on an overseas batter, and they don't have to play Hasaranga as a overseas leg spinner, and waste a slot. So I think it could be beneficial for both sides, but we'll have the discussion for some other time. But yes.
But yeah, so a few of
Yeah.
their players did not get game time, which is Rajan Kumar, Manoj Bandage, this guy Avinash Singh. So probably I don't think it makes sense to release them because you probably bought them for their potential. Probably you will see them in next season. But yeah, Dinesh Karthik getting released uh, is a very good possibility. Karan Sharma maybe getting released is a good possibility. Wayne Parnell getting released, and what do they do with Finn Allen? Because it's a very I felt one of the reasons that they retained him this season, because he did not play last season as well, because sometimes you want to keep good players so that no other team can also use them, which is why mid transfer season in IPL hasn't been a big thing, right? But clearly they need good middle order batting options now. How, because and if Finn Allen has age on his side, he has a very good intent. His numbers could improve because obviously he'll improve with time. But yeah, what do they do with Finn Allen? Like, do they release him,
So,
try and get a good middle order batter, or should they retain him? It's one thing that can be discussed
so
because I
I
don't
mean,
know.
one thing here. So they have Will Jacks returning, so I don't really need to see a need of them releasing Finn Allen because let's say if there is a niggle to half, there is no. I mean, there is a ready-made opener available, so why would you want to risk that when you already have a player for not much money? Uh,
Hmm.
so there are two things that I really strongly feel about RCB. One is the biggest disappointment that anyone should have about their season is it's not just that outside Kohli, Faf, and Maxwell, no one else performed. They were not even to even identify a single player they can say कि भाई this is our future. वो भी नहीं हुआ in 14 games. So that is the
True.
biggest absolute failure of the management. Whoever the sort of big brains there are. I mean, they should absolutely feel an abject failure that. I mean, in 14 games, you can't even identify one player in a plethora of players that you auctioned or scouted or whatever. I mean, these days, IPL team and a team like RCB would be spending millions of dollars on player development, coaching them in off season, looking at their the skill development and so on and so forth. And with all that money being spent, if तुम अगर एक player भी नहीं identify कर पाए, then it's a blunder, to be honest. And obviously, having Rajat Patidar back will, on paper, would make them seem like a good unit. But you never know what is Virat's form next year, what is Faf's form next year, because Faf would be 40, DK would be 38 in 7 days. So, I mean, with RCB, I mean, the age curve is something that I would keep in mind when it comes to potential release. I mean, I feel DK getting released would be a no-brainer because I don't see a lot of upside because there are clear issues. And a team which already struggles against spin, if you have a batter whose entry point you have to define only based on him hitting pace where you already have a lot of players who can hit that, there is not much of a value add, and 5.5 crores is a lot of money. And they right now they don't have any overseas slot left, so that also becomes a challenge. But having said that, I think Will Jacks will come in. I think Bracewell was the replacement for Will Jacks, if I'm not wrong. He comes into the 11. As I see them next season, I feel that they will need three overseas batters to balance their batting, which means that either they won't be able to play Hasaranga in all games, or they won't be able to play overseas pacers in all games. So they'll have to think maybe an option of not playing Hasaranga and Chinnaswamy and not playing an overseas players in spinning conditions would be the way to go. But they will have to sort of display that sort of flexibility next season.
Will Jacks is someone who had forgotten. So thankfully you mentioned it, because I thought Bracewell was in their initial squad, and that is why I brought up the question that what do they do with Finn Allen?
Yeah.
And that age issue is also something which is they'll have to look at very closely, because Maxwell's also not getting
Yeah,
any younger. I think Maxwell's what
yeah, yeah.
33, 34.
And
So
that's the
there's a
reason.
lot of
That's the reason why I don't want them to release Finn Allen, because I mean they can release him after giving him a season, but without giving him a chance, releasing him would be bizarre given that he's young. If he would have been 35, I would have said that yeah, probably go ahead with it.
So I guess RCB built a team for this cycle, and unfortunately, it's not really paid off. So they need a reset for sure, considering they have like 4 5 players over 35. So no question about that. It's about whether they start releasing now or they do it all together at the mega auction when the next cycle starts. So that is the only thing that remains to be seen, I guess.